which are very fragrant. He remembered the gopis' prayers to goddess Katyayani, wherein they prayed for Krishna to be their husband. He thought that the full moon night of the Sharad season was just suitable for this nice dance. So their desire to have Krishna as their husband would then be fulfilled. The words used in this connection to explain are, we'll skip that portion. The Lord is always full with six opulences. He still wanted to enjoy the company of gopis in the rasa dance. Bhagavan api signifies that this dance is not like the ordinary dancing of young boys and young girls. The specific word used in the Srimad Bhagavatam is yogamayam upashritaha, which means that this dancing with the gopis is on the platform of Yogamaya and not Mahamaya. The dancing of the young boys and girls within the material world is in the kingdom of Mahamaya, or the external energy. The rasa dance of Krishna with the gopis is on the platform of Yogamaya. The difference between the platforms of Yogamaya and Mahamaya is compared in the Chaitanya Charitamrita is to the difference between gold and iron. Gold and iron. From the viewpoint of metallurgy, gold and iron are both metals, but the quality is completely different. Similarly, although the rasa dance and Lord Krishna's association with gopis appear like ordinary mixing of young boys and girls, the quality is completely different. The difference is appreciated by great Vaishnavas because they can understand the difference between love and lust. On the Mahamaya platform, dances take place on the basis of sense gratification, personal sense gratification. But when Krishna called the gopis by sounding his flute, they very hurriedly rushed towards the spot of the rasa dance with the transcendental desire to satisfy Krishna. The author of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, has explained that lust means sense gratification, love means sense gratification, but for Krishna. In other words, when activities are enacted on the platform of personal sense gratification, they are called material activities, and when they are executed for the satisfaction of Krishna, they are spiritual activities. On any platform of activities, the principle of sense gratification is there. But on the spiritual platform, sense gratification is for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Whereas on the material platform, it is for the performer, that is for ourselves. For example, on the material platform, when a servant serves a master, he is trying to satisfy not the senses of his master, but rather his own senses, because the servant would not serve the master if the payment is stopped. In other words, though it externally appears as if the servant is serving the master, that is not the case. The servant is actually serving himself. Because if the payment is stopped, then he will not go and serve that master. So it is not service. He is serving, by the way, it is not service to the master. Because the master is paying him, he is serving. If the master stops paying, then he won't serve anymore. So that cannot be called service. It is exchange of, you're doing some activity in return for something. So that is not the meaning of service. The servant would not serve the master if payment is stopped. That means that the servant engages in the service of the master just to satisfy his own senses. No? Servant has no idea about, or servant has no desire to satisfy the master's senses. His ultimate goal is to satisfy his own senses, because of which he serves somebody, because he is getting a salary or payment. And when the payment is says, he will stop. So that is not the platform. On the spiritual platform, however, the servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead serves Krishna without payment, and he continues his service in all conditions. That is the difference between Krishna consciousness and material consciousness. It appears that Krishna enjoyed the rasa dance with the gopis when he was 8 years old. At that time, many of the gopis were already married, because in India, especially in those days, girls were married at a very young age. There are even many instances of girls giving birth to a child at the age of 12. Under the circumstances, all the gopis who wanted to have Krishna as their husband were already married. At the same time, they continued to hope that Krishna would be their husband. They're already married, but they're hoping that Krishna will be their husband. This attitude, their attitude towards Krishna was that of paramour love. Paramour love. Paramour love means a lover outside of marriage. Outside of marriage. Therefore, the loving affairs of Krishna and the gopis are called Parakiya Rasa. The attitude of a married man who desires another wife, or a wife who desires another husband, is called Parakiya Rasa. Swakiya and Parakiya. All right? Actually, Krishna is the husband of everyone because he is the supreme enjoyer. The gopis wanted Krishna to be their husband, but factually there was no possibility of his marrying all the gopis because they were already married. But because they had that natural tendency to accept Krishna as their supreme husband, the relationship between the gopis and Krishna is called Parakiya Rasa. There is no doubt that this relationship with the gopis, that gopis had with Krishna, is called Parakiya Rasa. They are already married and they desire to have Krishna as their husband. Hence, it comes under the category of Parakiya Rasa. This Parakiya Rasa is ever existent in Golok Vrindavan, in the spiritual sky, where there is no possibility of inebriety, which characterizes Parakiya Rasa in the material world. In other words, Parakiya Rasa in the spiritual world, which means Golok Vrindavan, cannot necessarily be considered to be wrong in Golok Vrindavan. That is, because Krishna is the husband of everyone, and if they so desire to actually serve Krishna as the wife, then it is called Parakiya Rasa. And that cannot be considered as an inebriety, means it cannot be considered to be wrong. In the Golok Vrindavan, Parakiya Rasa is ever existent. Prabhupada says, Parakiya Rasa is ever existent. In the material world, Parakiya Rasa is abominable. Obviously, in the material world, if we are already married, if somebody is already married and he desires to have someone else as the husband, obviously that is a very abominable rasa. It is very condemned. Whereas in the spiritual world, it is present in the super excellent relationship between Krishna and the gopis. Now, as far as the relationship between Krishna and the gopis is concerned, that comes under the category of Parakiya Rasa. It is called super excellent expression of love for one another. Super excellent. So that is Madhurya Rasa in its perfection. There are many relationships with Krishna: master and servant, friend and friend, parent and son, lover and beloved. Out of all these rasas, Parakiya Rasa is considered to be the topmost. Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan, Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Mai, Shri Shri Gauranitai Ki Jai. Of all these rasas, the Parakiya Rasa is considered to be the topmost. It's a different matter that the material world is considered as a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. What is considered as the super excellent best form of relationship in the spiritual world becomes the most abominable type of a relationship in the material world. It is called adultery. Well, let's not use the word Parakiya in the material world because that would be, I would think, inappropriate usage of that word. In the material world, that would be called adultery. It's a crime actually, it's a punishable crime. So it's a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. What is highest there becomes the most abominable in the material world. Now, so hence in the Srimad Bhagavatam it is warned that one should not imitate this Parakiya Rasa even in dream or imagination. Those who do so drink the most deadly poison. Even in dream or imagination, one has to not think of someone else's wife. That would be like drinking poison. So that's probably one of the reasons why the acharyas are very restrained when they discuss about Rasa Leela for the people of the material world. See, it is mentioned that the human mind, normally speaking, is capable of understanding all the other rasas, but this rasa is it's a little beyond the comprehension of the human mind, the Parakya rasa and the rasa between Krishna and the gopis. There is a very strong possibility that we may misunderstand it. And if we were to misunderstand it and look at it as the dancing of young boys with one young boy with many beautiful young girls, if we were to look at it in that way, that would be an offense to consider rasa dance, because rasa dance is the gopis offering themselves in the service of Krishna, for the pleasure of Krishna, for achieving the sense pleasure of Krishna, for satisfying the senses of Krishna. There's nothing selfish about it. This is the highest and most supreme form of sacrifice, or shall we say, perfection of the desire to serve and please Krishna. So it is said that in the material world, in terms of the relationships that we can have with Krishna, there are many relationships we can have, beginning with Shanta, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya and Madhurya. So it is mentioned that it's like the sugarcane juice, as it is progressively boiled and distilled, and it tends to become sweeter and sweeter and sweeter. So finally, in its sweetest form, it is equated to what is known as Madhurya Bhava. But the interesting thing is that a similar example is given in the 5 Panchabhutas of this material world. So there is earth, water, fire, air, ether. Now, ether has sound in it. Earth, water, fire, air, ether. Air has sound and touch. Fire has sound, touch and form. Water has sound, touch, form and taste. Earth has sound, touch, form, taste and smell. So, Madhurya Rasa includes all other rasas as well. Just as Shanta Rasa is rasa of neutrality. Actually, it's not considered at all as a rasa, because you don't find the acharyas discussing Shanta Rasa at all. For that, it's not even mentioned frequently. So it begins with Dasya Rasa. Dasya Rasa is one of serving. Then after that is Sakya. Sakya Rasa includes the Dasya Bhava as well as something more. Then there's a Vatsalya. Vatsalya Rasa includes what is there in Dasya, what is there in Sakya, and a little more. Similarly, Madhurya Rasa has all the other aspects of the other rasas. So Madhurya Rasa is said to be the most complete and perfect, and only Krishna demonstrates or accommodates or displays Madhurya Rasa among all the forms of the Lord. Hence, it is known as the highest form of the Lord. Krishna is reservoir of all the rasas. Akila Rasatma Sindhu is called. Reservoir, ocean of all the rasas. And that includes the Parakya Rasa, which is also known as Madhurya Rasa. Well, Parakya Rasa is not equated to Madhurya Rasa. Madhurya Rasa is one of wanting to give pleasure to the Lord. But when practiced in the Parakya Bhava mood, the Madhurya Rasa becomes even more relishable. That fact is that when gopis are already married and they wish to have Krishna as their husband, so it is mentioned that that rasa is even more sweeter than just getting married to Krishna. So similarly, it is said that there are the queens of Dwarka. And the queens of Dwarka, though it is mentioned that Satyabhama and Rukmini are Chandravali and Radharani herself, expansions. But because they are in Dwarka and not in Vrindavan, their mood of serving Krishna is a little different there. Similarly, the resident, let us say the people of Mathura, so they also don't relate in the same manner in which the gopis of Vrindavan relate to Krishna. So the thing that makes that thing that characterizes the difference is the intensity of love. Intensity means tivrata. Tivra means very intense form of love. Nobody can match the intense form of love that the gopis of Vrindavan can show. See, the point is that the intensity of love, in the case of, let's say, the queens of Dwarka, is mixed a little bit with this understanding that Krishna is also the Supreme Lord. So it's mixed a little bit with awe and reverence. So, and because of the presence of awe and reverence, it is considered that they are a little inhibited and restrained in their behavior with Krishna. When you know that the person you're dealing with is the Supreme Personality of Godhead as well, when you're conscious of that, it definitely tends to influence one's attitude and behavior. So, though there is love, like for example, it is said that Lord Ramachandra also displays Dasya Rasa. I mean, he accommodates Dasya Rasa and he also accommodates Sakya Rasa. And for that matter, Lord Ramachandra refers to Sugriva and Vibhishana as being his friends. But then if you look at the way Sugriva and Vibhishana conduct themselves with Lord Ramachandra, you can't call that friendship at all. It doesn't appear like that. Sugriva and Vibhishana continue to serve as servants, as inferiors. Friendship means among equals. But you don't see that. So, Lord Ramachandra accommodates Sakya Rasa mixed with some respect. Respect or reverence. Reverence and respect. So, it's not really the same type of friendship that Krishna has with the Gopa boys. It's completely different. Though Shastrically it is said that Lord Ramachandra accommodated Sakya Rasa. Well, as far as Dasya Rasa is concerned, Lord Ramachandra definitely accommodates it because that's the relationship in which all the Vanaras serve him. Say, for example, Hanuman, Lakshmana. They serve him, Bharata, Shatrughna serve him more as a Dasya. But by Lord Ramachandra's own admission, he gives the status of friendship to two personalities, Vibhishana and Sugriva. But that friendship also is mixed with, tinged with the mood of respect, awe and reverence. Respect and reverence. So, it's not a complete display of Dasya Rasa. So, in the same manner, the queens of Dwarka, though they love Krishna, though they are intensely in love with Krishna, but their love is mixed with this consciousness, the constant remembrance that this Krishna is the Supreme Lord, Supreme Personality. So, it is not in the same fashion in which, let's say, the Gopa boys play with Krishna, or it's not in the same fashion in which the gopis relate with Krishna. So, the queens of Dwarka the relationship with Krishna is supposed to be a little lesser in intensity, and it is inhibited, or it is impeded a little bit by their conscious feeling of Krishna as the Supreme Lord, which is absent, completely absent in Vrindavan. For that matter, in Vrindavan, even the friends are not conscious of the real position of Krishna as being the Supreme Lord. So one time even for that matter, even the Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Maya are not conscious of Krishna as being the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So it is said that after the Govardhan Leela, when they all gather together and they're talking, the elderly Gopas are saying, there's something very special about your son. Look what all he could do. He lifted the Govardhan mountain for 7 days and 7 nights at the tip of his little finger. And then day after day, we see that there are several asuras who are coming into Vrindavan. And it is so surprising to see that how effortlessly Krishna deals with them and he kills them. So there is obviously something very special about your son Krishna. So they're talking about it, and then Nanda Maharaj even remembers that some kind of a prediction like this was made by Garga Muni, who said that this person who is today your son appears in different yuga, and he has different bodily complexion, and wherever he appears, he spreads happiness. Wherever he appears, he provides shelter to the people and he has this unique quality of being very favorable towards those who worship him or surrender him or take his shelter. He protects them from all types of calamities and dangers and risks. So, and by the way, he is also so powerful that very effortlessly he can destroy the asuras. And he has, in other words, Garga Muni will, in an indirect way, though Garga Muni can understand this is the Supreme Lord, he doesn't want to reveal that. So Nanda Maharaj is hearing, nodding his head, And then when they're discussing about Krishna's glories and qualities, Nanda Maharaj is even remembering them, telling, yeah, Garga Muni said this. He said that this baby boy is like that. He's very powerful. Garga Muni said he appeared in different yugas. So they talk about it. But in the Bhagavatam, it is said that very soon they forget about it. They completely forget. That is the exercise of Yogamaya power of Krishna. They just completely forget. For them, Krishna is their little boy. For that matter, it is said that when Yashodamaya opened the mouth of Krishna, she saw the whole Brahmanda within the mouth of Krishna. She can't believe. She thinks something is wrong with her. Maybe she didn't sleep well. Maybe she's imagining. Maybe she's hallucinating. Again, she'll open her mouth. Then, again, Krishna will show the whole universe. And it's very hilarious, actually. He'll show the whole universe. In that universe, he will show Bharata Kanda, then this one, then he'll show this. Then he will actually show Nanda Maharaj's compound. In that Nanda Maharaj's compound, Krishna will show Yashodamaya opening the mouth, looking inside. Yashodamaya will get completely bewildered. She said, there must be some ghosts in my mind or something like that. But she doesn't take more cognizance of that. And she closes Krishna's mouth and says, or maybe she says, I have to immediately do something to protect my child. Something strange is happening either to him or to me. I don't know. So Yashodamaya will start chanting the names of Vishnu. You can imagine what she's doing. She starts chanting the names of Vishnu, saying, protect this child. Something strange is happening. From the time he has appeared here, every day one Rakshasa is making an unscheduled stop here or visit here. I don't know what's happening. And see what's happening now. I don't know what to believe, what not to believe. Like that, and then she forgets. Blissful. Because Krishna will show a jhalak. He'll show a jhalak of his actual position and then he'll make them forget it. Because if they remember, it will disturb Krishna's leela. It will disturb Krishna's, what shall I say, his intention to relish uninhibited, loving, transcendental exchange between himself and the devotees. Loving exchanges. So Krishna is not very satisfied with the exchanges that happen in Dwarka. Though there are 16,108 queens, they all love him. But there's a lot of formality. When he goes to visit Rukmini, you can see how Rukmini sends her children to pay obeisances, and then she's standing there, and they're washing Krishna's feet, and then she's fanning. And Krishna tries occasionally to joke with them, like he jokes with the residents of Vrindavan. So he jokes with Rukmini and say, that story is there. He jokes with her and says, I still don't understand why you agreed to marry me. So, and Rukmini, he will taunt Rukmini. Basically, he's trying to taunt and be playful with Rukmini. Rukmini faints, that's all. The moment Krishna speaks like this, he faints. One can imagine what will be the reaction of the gopis if Krishna tries something in Vrindavan. Gopis will say, no, we didn't come to you. Stop imagining. You are no good. Like that, they will retort to him. Word for word, they will retort. Radharani or Chandravali. Or somebody will just retort. Retort means give it back to Krishna. Word for word, they will give it back to Krishna. You are simply imagining that you are the most handsome person. We don't believe. You are very short. So this different kind of comments they make to Krishna. You're dark, you're little short. Like that they make. And Krishna actually loves it. Krishna loves it. He likes it. So there is a bit of uninhibited loving exchange. And then there is different leelas, different rasas. It is these rasas that are documented in the Nectar of Devotion, in the later portions of the Nectar of Devotion. These rasas are, Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, on the instructions of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, have documented what are the various rasas and who is the expert in the different rasas. For example, Chandravali has a particular type of mood and rasa. Radharani's mood is distinctly different. And one of them is more docile and submissive, the other is more aggressive. Obviously, Radharani's mood is more aggressive. It is said that the difference between Chandravali and Radharani is that Chandravali is very, 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 submissive. If Krishna taunts her, then she'll start crying. She will never retort to Krishna. But Radharani's mood is very mischievous, aggressive, confident, and unhesitating. If Krishna were to taunt her, Radharani will taunt him back. Word for word, she will give it back. So actually, the fact is, which is why Krishna becomes a little scared of. So it's said that among all the gopis, the 8 gopis are principal gopis. Among these principal gopis, Chandravali and Radharani are the best. And among the two, obviously, it is Radharani who is the best, because Radharani's love has the additional dimension of being confident, and her love is mixed with these little aggressive mood of retorting and giving back to Krishna. So that is why Krishna relishes that. So there's a huge difference between how Krishna relates with the queens in Dwarka and let's say the gopis of Vrindavan. So of course Krishna also is so perfect in the sense that in order to execute his topmost Leela, which is the Rasa Leela, Krishna makes very super excellent arrangements in order to create that build up, that scene, in order to create an extremely, the Bhagavatam says, an extremely stimulating, romantic atmosphere. Krishna creates a particular scene. Now it is said that there is the full moon, and the Bhagavatam explains that what is the contribution and what is the role of the full moon as different from that of the sun rays. Full moon is, the rays of the moon are very pleasant and very soothing and very romantic, and at the same time there is so many birds and chirping very softly, and the Mallika flowers, specific mention is made of the Mallika flowers, are blooming in large number, because they give an intoxicating fragrance at that point of time. So there is this Mallika flowers that are blooming in the forests of Vrindavan, and of course there is the Yamuna flowing gently down on the banks there, and then it is said that there is one element which is the stimulating factor for the rasa dance. I spoke about the moon rays, the birds, the trees, the wind, the Mallika flowers. But all of them are there. But it is said that Krishna's flute, it is Krishna's flute which actually triggers a similar romantic feeling in the heart of the gopis. Krishna's flute. So when Krishna picks up his flute and starts playing the flute, it is he is signaling to the gopis that I want you. I want to dance with you. I want you all to come. I want to spend some time with you. It is signaling to the gopis that he wants the gopis to come there. As soon as they hear the flute of Krishna. So the sound of Krishna's flute is also discussed, and it is said that it is the Krishna's flute that triggers this very high intensity of romantic feeling between Krishna and the gopis just stop doing whatever they're doing. They just stop it. And all of them are running towards the spot from where the sound of the flute is originating. It is said that they have big earrings and jewels, and they are dazzling. Each one of them is like the moon among the stars. Not that there's only one moon. Each one of them is so dazzlingly beautiful that each one of them is like the moon among the stars. They're running towards Krishna. It is said that their earrings are going back and forth, and their jewels studded all over their body is making a tingling sound, and they're perspiring and they're anxiously running towards Krishna to unite with him, and the Bhagavatam explains, and to satisfy him in all possible ways, because it is that kind of a mood that Vrindavan, the atmosphere of Vrindavan creates. So Bhagavatam reminds us that Krishna is the supreme enjoyer. He enjoys, and everybody serves. So which is why in the Bhagavatam it's also mentioned that Krishna is his universal husband. He's the husband of everybody. Now it is said that this loving exchange is reserved for those who are purified. Who are purified in the sense that they do not have any desire for personal sense gratification, but they only desire the satisfaction of Krishna. They only desire the satisfaction of Krishna. So, while that is the case, how do we achieve it? The Acharyas explain that, in one sense, they explain that one can make progress all the way up to Madhurya Rasa. Now, while we speak about Shanta, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, Madhurya Rasa, it is not that we can attain only up to Sakya Rasa. The scriptures explain that you can also go all the way up to Madhurya Rasa. But there's a way. Madhurya Rasa demands that somebody should be absolutely pure. Now, in the Vedic scriptures, or at least in the context of the Rasa dance, the word purity has a distinct connotation. The connotation of the word purity is that one does not have any desire other than the desire to satisfy Krishna, please Krishna. There's nothing else. If Krishna wants, I will do. If Krishna wants this, I will do. If Krishna wants that, I will do. There is neither inhibition or hesitation, nor restraint, nor is somebody restrained, nor is there a concept of, what shall I say, the ordinary understanding of the word dharma. Ordinary understanding. If Krishna wants, I will do. If that's going to make Krishna more happy, I will do. If that's going to make Krishna even more happy, I'm ready to do that. So there is the only dharma that exists on the platform of Rasa dance is wanting to give ultimate super excellent pleasure to Krishna. That is the only dharma. And they are fearless. Fearless in the sense that they are ready to face any consequences, but they will not compromise on giving pleasure to Krishna. So that is the meaning of the purity as explained in the context of the Rasa dance. Well, in the context of sadhana bhakti at different levels, the word purity could have different connotations. But as far as the Rasa dance is concerned, the gopis are qualified to participate in the Rasa dance only because of this mood of theirs, that for them the highest and the supreme objective is to serve and is to please Krishna and do whatever it takes to please Krishna. Whatever it takes. They are even oblivious, or shall we say, they are even setting aside the fact that they are already married, they have husband, they have children, they have this, they have that. They're setting, nothing comes in the way. If something is going to make Krishna happy, if we go to the Rasa dance, participate in the middle of the night by running away from home, they're willing to do that. So, which is why the gopis are considered as the supreme, super excellent, the most excellent examples of bhakti, of intense form of bhakti. That is how they are considered. So, this is the mood in which Rasa dance is executed, hence the gopis are worshipped. But in the sense that, please understand that they never had hesitation, inhibition, restraint, not even willing to understand willing to set aside all standard concept of dharma, such as, okay, you're already married, you can't dance with somebody else. Nothing, they don't care. Nothing comes in the way between wanting to give pleasure to Krishna. So that is called Parakiya Rasa. Parakiya Rasa is when you're overwhelmed, overtaken, you're completely overwhelmed and overtaken by the desire to please Krishna. By the desire to please Krishna. So that is the highest form of wanting to serve Krishna. Now, it is that highest form of wanting to serve Krishna that Lord Chaitanya comes to freely distribute. Now, how does one achieve that? One achieves that by following the formula given by Lord Chaitanya. So, Lord Chaitanya explains that one can attain, one cannot become a gopi. Our mood is different. We say Gopi Bhartur Padakamalayur Dasa Dasanu Dasaha. It's considered wrong to aspire to become a gopi. No, we don't do that. We are very, very happy and satisfied if we become the servant of the servant of the servant of the gopis. Gopi Bhartur Padakamalayur Dasa Dasanu Dasaha. So, this method given by Lord Chaitanya is capable, is in and of itself capable of taking you to the highest platform of perfection and success. And the highest platform of success for a devotee is to be willing to sacrifice everything and anything in order to give pleasure to Krishna. So, the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, the reading of the Srimad Bhagavatam, accepting an Acharya who comes in the parampara of Lord Chaitanya, constitute 3 or 4 important steps in achieving this form of bhakti. So, the gopis remain at the highest pinnacle of bhakti because of their strong desire, because they become overwhelmed by desire of wanting to give pleasure to Krishna, overwhelmed so much so that they're not even conscious of anything else. They're not conscious of anything else. So Krishna demonstrates that he becomes a property of such devotees. Krishna also willingly, happily demonstrates that he is controlled by the love of such devotees. So the rasa dance also shows the highest pinnacle of Krishna's reciprocation. Krishna can reciprocate by giving what you want, by blessing you, by protecting you, by giving you knowledge, by giving you purity. But the highest reciprocation of Krishna is when Krishna says, Na paraye ham. That means I am not separate, I am yours. I am yours. It's not that I'll give you something. I am yours, you take me. I'm completely yours. So that is the highest reciprocation that Krishna can give. And gopis show the highest love that any living entity can offer to Krishna. And Krishna in turn reciprocates by showing the highest, in other words, the highest form of reciprocation that we can possibly derive from Krishna. Okay, so it is difficult to discuss more about, because our acharyas have not spent too much time, except that they've analyzed the philosophical part of the rasa dance in sufficient detail. But of course, the actual execution of rasa dance is also mentioned, how they come together and they dance and Krishna separates himself. And then he separates himself and takes Radharani away. And then he separates himself from Radharani as well. And then he reappears. And then actually that discussion that happens between the gopis and Krishna, after he reappears, the Krishna talks. Krishna reveals his heart. He says that nobody can occupy the same position that you gopis have occupied in my life, in my heart, in my consciousness. And I don't know how to reciprocate you. So, because I don't know, I'll give myself to you. Like that, okay? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama. Thank you very much. Let us, it's the end of the Kartik Mass, but we're stepping into the December book distribution marathon. This year has been very strange. Began with the Corona thing, went on for 6-7 months, and then we had Adhik Mass. I don't know to what degree you people practice, at least in other centers. Adhik Maas was like a very time of very great intense tapasya and vratas different devotees did. Then back to back we had, after Adhik Maas we had Kartik, and now we have marathon. So I'm offering a special prayer to Shri Radha Madan Mohan, Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra, Shri Gaur Nitai, Shri Balaji Srinivas Govinda and Shri Devi Bhudevi at ISKCON Dhulpeta. And I'm begging them to bless all of you so that this month we dedicate ourselves to book distribution. And it is mentioned that the books which are written on the basis of the teachings of Lord Chaitanya are the only solution to all the problems of this world. Not only that, they also take us to the highest platform of bhakti, which is known as Madhurya Bhakti. These books. So these books are complete. So it is mentioned that if one wants to serve Krishna properly, one has to learn about Krishna, one has to know about Krishna. So, not just by chanting. We also have to learn. So, there is chanting and there is reading of these literature, which is a presentation of the philosophy of Lord Chaitanya as he explained to the 6 Goswamis. So, Srila Prabhupada translated and made all this available to us. So, today is a day when we should be very grateful to the contributions of Srila Prabhupada in our life, in teaching us how to become better and better devotees. So I offer a prayer that all of you should be blessed, protected, become wonderful devotees, very sincere, very intense, very serious devotees, and you have a very successful Gita Marathon month. Thank you. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.